Okay, so this is a Facebook Live edition of Sports Talk New York, and it's our first one. So we want to welcome our first guest, who's joining us now, is a man who's been collecting memorabilia for over 30 years. For the past 27 years, he's owned and operated Cardboard Memories, which is one of Long Island's most reputable memorabilia retail stores. Known for his knowledge and savvy of authentic autographs and his desire to teach others about them, he possesses the honesty and integrity one would want and need from a memorabilia source. He is also a former consultant for JSA, James Spence Authentication, and he is nationally known for his authenticity ability in the field of sports autographs, and has been acknowledged in the field as a world-renowned autograph expert by Jimmy Spence. It is a pleasure for AJ and I to welcome Scott Stimell to our first ever Sports Talk New York Facebook Live. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing as well as everybody can be doing under these circumstances. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. We've been trying to get you on our radio show for a number of years, and we figured this is something different, and we're going to try it. So what have been some of the things you've been trying to do on a personal level to deal with the pandemic?
Just really just stay active, be a little more involved with my family, trying to just actually post some stuff and get some stuff out so the public can see, going through some of my stuff because I have, like you said, I have a collection for 30 years, and I could go through it and forget I have some of the stuff and just enjoy it like I was a kid again. And I know, Mark, your passion is greater than mine, which is hard to believe because mine's really large. But I know you're so passionate about sports like I am.
Scott, how hard is it not to have, foot traffic through the store? How hard is it for you?
It's a double-edged sword for me because it's hard. It's harder for me because I love the interaction with people. So for me, not having the families and the children come in to enjoy the historic parts and look in my store and have that conversation, that's really the reason why I created my store, and where my love of collecting came about was really sharing it with others, because that's what this is really all about. So I miss that more than the business aspect of it. It's just the interaction with the people is what I really miss a lot.
So take us through how you actually got into collecting, and at what point in your life did you think that, okay, this might be a viable business for me and this could be my career?
It's a great question. So I picked up the real truth is, well, I started collecting baseball cards as a child, like everybody else. I've said this before. As a 5-year-old, I was with my father. My father's best friend had a pharmacy. So I went in and I opened up a pack of cards, and it was 1972. I was 5 years old at the time, and it was raining out. I remember opening the pack of cards and my father telling me that I had gotten Frank Howard, who was this massive 6'6", human being, and I just never forgot it. And Mark, you collected cards too, I know that. So in 1972, the baseball cards had like those fonts that looked like Charlie's Angels. It was like that, that it's hard to explain it, but I'll go get one after and show it to you. But it was just, and I have a snapshot in my brain. So that started my love of collecting baseball cards, which brings you to flipping baseball cards, which brings you to collecting them. And then it's not cool really to collect after 6th grade when you were growing up as a kid. So you kind of put it on the back burner. But I picked up a Beckett annual baseball card guide in like 7th grade and saw that I had some baseball cards that were worth $1.50. And all of a sudden I said to my friends, do you have baseball cards? So I started buying all my friends' baseball cards in the 7th grade, and they wanted money to go to the movies and whatever, and they could care less about their cards. And that's where it kind of all started for me back then. Then moving forward, I collected baseball cards, going to shows in the I guess the early 80s, mid 80s. Then went to college. Girls came along. I forgot all about that stuff. Went to college, graduated, got a real job. And then I said, you know what? I don't love what I'm doing. My mother used to always say to me, Scott, you collect all this stuff for so long. Why don't you open up a store? It's your passion. You love it. And if you could do something that you love and make a living at it, why don't you do that? So I went to work for a friend of mine that was actually in a baseball card distribution business. And I went to work for him for a couple of years, and I learned that aspect of the business, traveled the country. And then I went on my own in 1992 and opened up a small store inside of a comic book store. And I took it really slow. I started with only a few $1,000s, my personal collection, and I gradually built it up. And this is my 4th location now, where I am today in Comac. But I slowly built it up and just buying collections and just, there's nothing I had never saw that I don't like, unfortunately.
Scott, you talk about this almost clinically as a business and collecting cards and this. How much of this is backed up by the fact, are you a sports fanatic? Do you watch sports a lot? If so, which sport do you like the best?
It's not right. So time out. So it's not. So even though I said I saw something worth $1, to me, it's not. The business aspect came out of my passion. So let's not make no mistake that the ability to do something I love and to share it with people and to be able to make a living at it was just a culmination. So yes, I make a living out of it. But if you really had, the truth is that it's my passion that is the reason. I'm not as big a sports fan as I am today, just because of a little ADD and the fact that, games and baseball kind of get dragged out today. And I don't think it's very hard to watch a 9-inning game in today's world, which is another issue about how they, relievers come in every 5 minutes and things like that. But as a child, I was the hugest sports fan. Just like, and I look at Mark because I know he was bigger than I was. And he'll tell you that he probably watched 3 games at the same time. And I would watch a game, listen to a game on the radio, whatever I had to do to listen to 3 games at the same time. My father would go out to meetings and wouldn't be around a lot at night. I'd write him notes about what was going on in the games. It's the Knicks are in the 4th quarter. It's garbage time. Sly Williams scored 15 points, but whatever. Those are the things that I did. So yes, as a child, I had every subscription to every magazine, to Hockey Digest, to Baseball Digest, to the Sporting News, to Sports Illustrated. So as a child, it was in my blood.
So, it's interesting because, and you mentioned the passion. So going through this, we look at some of the things that were, brought stability in our lives when we're in this time of instability. And for me, growing up on Long Island, those things are, after like the first week, I went out to Zorn's, which has been around since 1940, and brought in dinner because that's what I did as a kid. And I went to Target, even though you're not supposed to go, and I picked up baseball cards because for me it was some sense of normality, and it was therapeutic. What are some of the things people are buying from you these days, online? Are you seeing that people are going back to their childhood and reaching out for that?
Yeah, so you're spot on with that. So right, you open up the pack of baseball cards, Mark, because it brings you back to a time where it was a simpler time. It brings you back to your childhood, to things that you remember, that you enjoyed, that you can actually have a flashback to a good moment, to positive memories, and where the world was completely different than it is today, right? So today, I find people are buying baseball cards and basketball cards are a completely different animal. It's not 10 cents or 25-cent packs. There's no, it's not like the rack pack you bought at the 7-Eleven or the 5 and dime that you would go ride up with your bicycle. It's an expensive hobby today, unfortunately. And it's driven by these crazy inserts and things that are worth, a lot of money. But simplistically, bring it back. Yes, people are buying boxes and packs of cards because they love they love to open them up and the unknown of what they're going to get inside. And it brings them back to their childhood. So I'm seeing a lot of boxes and packs being bought to bring people back to that, I think, because they're stuck in their homes and things. So and a lot of memorabilia people are buying.
So the other side of the coin is, with people being stuck in their homes, is people are cleaning out their basements and look what they want to keep, what they don't want to keep. Is this an opportunity for you, or you fear that the market is not going to be flooded on eBay with people selling things that their wives finally told them to clean out the basement and throw out?
The answer is both, right? The answer is both. So it's going to happen, right? That's a great question. And yes, people are. ironically, right now, my phones aren't really ringing to sell me stuff. I'm usually get calls 10 times a day to buy stuff where people think their things are worth a lot more than they are because they go online. And perfect example, on a separate line, my mother texted me yesterday and she says, I have this Corningware from the 1960s, the blue Corningware they had. And I see on Google that they're worth thousands of dollars. So there are people actually asking thousands of dollars for this Corningware. But the truth of the matter is the Corningware really is worth about $20 a pop. But there are people out there that put things online at certain prices. So everyone doesn't know what the things are worth. So the internet is filled with good and bad information. So I don't know if I ran away from your question a little bit, but people are finding stuff.
But it's interesting because you mentioned the cost. So, I started collecting in 1966 when I was 6. But when I was 9 years old, I would ride my bicycle down to Midlawn, candy store, which was on Hicksville Road in Bethpage, and I would pluck down a nickel for 5 cards or a dime for 10 cents for 10 cards, which translates to 660 cards if you were 100% lucky and got one individual card. The entire set cost you $6.60. When I went to Target the other day, all right, for a pack of 67 cards, okay, it cost
me $11.
$13.99. All right. So that means in order to collect the full $700 card set, it would cost you $140 if you were lucky to get one individually. So
it's probably not a 700 card. It's probably not a 700 card set today. But what you're missing is that there's these special inserts and subsets that'll make it in chase cards and things of that nature in today's world. That it's not simple. Back when you collected, it was Topps, and then when you got later, it was Topps, Donruss, and Fleer.
And
it was one set.
Right. And then it became Studio and Leaf Studio and Pinnacle and all of those. But
so just what set? What did you buy? Was it Topps? Was it Heritage? What was it?
Well, I bought both. I bought the Heritage because and we'll get to that because that's my question. So at $13.99, it's no longer a kid's hobby. Like no kid is going to walk in with $14 and buy a pack of baseball cards.
But it is a kid's hobby because people do. Because kids will spend that money on it. $13.99 is on the low end. You can buy packs of cards that are $100 a pack.
Wow!
Today, it's crazy. It's like legalized gambling.
So, so in some respects, though, I look at it that they're still appealing to us because, and here I'm I don't know if people can see this because this is
it's a 1971 looking card, which is a very hard card. In normal set, it's hard to get in great condition because the black borders are very sensitive.
Right. So, but what they've been doing, Topps has been issuing a subset every year called the Heritage, and it's a throwback. And next year will be your favorite year because they do it, chronologically. And this is instead of the regular set, this is what I would collect if I was collecting now because it reminds me when of that year. So
and that's why that's why it has a strong collecting base because people do. Like to collect what they remember, and it's kind of cool to see Mike Trout on a 1971 Topps card.
Part of the big difference though between collecting now and collecting then. You talked about Mark, but going to the candy store, the deli, wherever you got your cards, and if you remember, Topps used to issue their cards in series. So the beginning of the year, they issued the first 150 cards, and then you waited for Series 2 to come out, and there was the continuing thing of saying, okay, who's next? You have the little checklist card. Who do I have? Who don't I have? Now people buy the whole sets. Do you find people are buying them just to have, or people are buying to actually look and enjoy the cards?
So, sadly, in a way, I think a lot of people are caught up in the value of what they're going to get out of the pack versus the pure collecting for the love and joy, what we did as children. And collecting our favorite player, even if he wasn't worth a lot of money. Like Bobby Mercer was my favorite player growing up because I grew up in the early 70s. I was a lefty and whatever, but I would have traded Bobby Mercer for, to me, he was worth more money. So I would have traded Reggie Jackson for a Bobby Mercer or whatever it would be. Today, the kids are looking at a lot of times, what did I get this limited card? Did I get the autograph card? Did I get whatever that's worth $500, $1,000? And this market today is driven a lot based on that. To be honest with you, it is. There's still purists out there but not as many as we were when we were growing up as a child.
You know, the first card I can remember getting, Mark, you know, was an Eli Gerba card. And, you know,
GRBA.
Yeah, GRBA. He was 1960. He was with the Yankees. He was in the expansion draft and went to the Angels for 61. So I remember looking at the card, and like the first card I ever wrote, Eli Gerba, is he good, is he bad? But all I remember, you know, how many years later now, 60 years later, is I remember the first card I had, and he wasn't even a good player. So you follow him and seeing who whatever. And that's sort of the fun. You look and follow baseball because of the cards, as opposed to having the cards just to say, I have the complete set.
And not only that, I mean, to that point, my first player was Dick Tracewski from the Detroit Tigers. And you even remember the poses. Like, if you took out the 1969 baseball set and covered the little circle, and you showed me the card, I could tell you every single guy in that set. Because as a 9-year-old, we studied that. You know, we've been lucky enough to have on our show over the last 5-6 years the president of Topps, and we've talked about this. And you know, for me, and you know, full disclosure, Scott bought my entire collection because he's a fair and reputable guy. And I downsized, and I didn't have room for this massive collection.
And just a side note, I have plenty of stuff that you can come back and you can actually have, because I have a lot of sets. And they're sitting here in the front of my store. So if you want to come back and get some, I will gladly.
They'll happily sell you back your collection.
Really?
No, I will give you some stuff back. You can have some stuff.
If I had the room, believe me. So, but the thing is that now, you know, I've downsized, but the world's changed. So things have gone digital. And in speaking to Clay Lashura, who is the president of Topps, I asked him, I said, is there a digital platform to go back and collect? You know, if I ever get that hunger, you know, I'll Google and I'll look at the card that I used to have in 66 or whatever. But Topps came out with Topps Bunt, which is a digital platform where you can, and they give you free packs every day, but it's not the same feeling. Do kids now, because they are digitally inclined, do you think that's that same visceral feeling we used to get opening the pack if it's opening up on their iPhone?
I mean, I would never think it would be. I could never. You could, you know, it's like, how could you replicate the real thing to me? But you remember, we're a certain age and we grew up a certain way. I mean, you know, going back a little to your designs. Can you remember what color the circles were?
Depends on the team. Yeah, for sure.
And you're going. Let's talk about flipping a little bit, because I know you flipped.
Yeah, right? Closest to the wall. Yeah, colors.
Did you flip? Did you flip with 5 last and 10 last with the shades and the colors?
Absolutely.
Like, you know, like that.
So it's interesting because so unfortunately this is our first go around with this, so we're not 100% sure of how to get the comments. So I'm also on my phone. So they're talking, people talking about Clemente rookies. They're talking about prices are ridiculous these days. But John Myers
and they're gonna probably bring up grading and condition is everything in the value of a baseball card today, unfortunately.
Right. So that's the other thing. So you talked about JSA. All right, we talked about that in the open.
That's the authentication autograph, which we could get to. I'll give you a little really microcosm of baseball cards and value-wise and grading, because they're bringing up Clemente rookies. They're going to bring up Seaver rookies, why a card is valuable, why a card is harder to get in good shape. You brought up series before, AJ. So that plays a big part in the value of a card, because usually the tail end, the latest series, you already had gone to camp. You weren't collecting, you weren't in school, so you were detached a little bit. So usually the last series of all these sets, and the high numbers they call them, were the most difficult to collect in good condition, and are really what stops people from finishing their sets. They stopped those series, the 6 series that you mentioned. The last year they did it was truly really 1972, 73 a little bit, but it wasn't the same. But the 72 high numbers are hard. So when you look at like going to, because I know Mark's a big Met fan, right? So you go back to Tom Seaver's rookie card, 1967. It's a high number. He shared it with another player. The same way that Nolan Ryan, the following year, shared his rookie card with another player who was happening to be pretty good, Jerry Kuzman, I believe. So those cards in the high numbers of those rookies are really hard to find and hard to find in good shape. Therefore, in 1967, we'll go back to, the Seaver rookie is very valuable, and the Rod Carew rookie is also they're called single printed cards. They're very valuable. So the series plays a big effect. But today the value is on the grading, where we used to put the emphasis on the corners of the baseball cards and how sharp they were. It's now superseded by the centering of how the card is printed from the factory. So when we were younger, if you remembered, I'm sure this was a conversation that you had. If the card was really off-centered or miscut, you thought you had a special card. I remember my friends saying, let's send it back to Topps, and they'll send you back 50 cards because they miscut the card. You know, today, if your card is miscut, you're shit out of luck. So the card's worth very minimal money. You could have a Roberto Clemente that's miscut, and it's considered miscut, and the card is very low value because of the cut. So that plays a big part.
Hold on, we finally, I finally figured out the chat room, and we have it now. So there's a question on the screen right now from Sal Domino. He wants to know, have we overshot high numbers? Because he's meaning, I guess, to try and complete a set. He says 67 and 66 and 67 are ridiculous, the high numbers. So for people that were collecting sets,
ridiculous so here's a question: ridiculous in price or ridiculously hard to get?
Let's see. He's saying that he didn't find 63 to 65, it's hard to find. He said, but the price is just high. He says, I guess it's difficult. Sal, if you answer in the chat room, do you mean the prices or just finding the cards? So hopefully he'll answer that soon.
The answer to both that questions is both. So they are expensive and they are hard to find. So when he says, have they overshot them? I just
he meant price. He meant price.
You know, let's talk about a little bit today. It used to be baseball cards were it. There were football cards. There were basketball cards. I assume there are hockey cards.
Yes, there are.
And not as popular as baseball. As you come to 2020, do you have, and they're popular, you've got, are there lacrosse cards? Are there soccer cards? WNBA cards?
There's wrestling cards.
Wrestling cards. Are they as popular?
There's everything. They're not as popular because they're not as mainstream. And they'll mark as the hugest hockey fan. Hockey, even though in the Northeast is strong, but nationally still doesn't hold. It's the most exciting sport to watch. I mean, you could argue whatever, but obviously being from Long Island and here, the Islanders, the roots of the Islanders and the Rangers, we have a strong marketplace in the Northeast, but nationwide, hockey usually sits at the bottom. Today, baseball is still the king, but it really is getting rivaled by basketball. And it really matters the rookies that drive the set, because people buy rookies almost like a penny stock. They're hoping and they're banking on, a guy and going out and buying that player, whether it's a Zion, a Ja Morant. Last year, you had sleepers. You had Luka in basketball. You had Trey, who's catching some steam, and those are the players driving the market. Go back to 17 in football, you have obviously Patrick Mahomes. In 18, your hopes were set on Saquon. Who else is Lamar? I think Lamar Jackson is 18, who came out of nowhere. So that's what drives the market in today. But baseball is still baseball.
Any Johnny Manziel rookies?
Yeah, they go in that pile. They go in with.
You talk about
Tim Couch. They go with Tim Couch.
Everybody has an idea that Zion Williamson is the first pick in the draft. He's going to be good. You get his card. How much are people out there trying to find the surprise? When you mentioned, Trey Young, somebody, Luka Doncic, they come and they surprise. They have a rookie season. Mitchell Robinson probably would be another one. His career, blossoms 5 years from now.
But he's not sexy enough.
Yeah, but what people say, I'm hoping he becomes sexy, 4 or 5 years from now. Is that part of the joy, finding the one you have the card that nobody thought would be the big rookie, but then he becomes the big star?
Yeah, so the answer is sure, because it's almost like a stock guy, right? He's doing his analyzing pre, and he's looking for that stock that people don't know about, that maybe he's been buying it in waves, hoping that it's going to hit at one point. You could go back to Jeremy Lin, right? Linsanity. Okay, it's musical chairs, because who's ever stuck with Jeremy Lin cards that paid $2,000 for these rare cards back then and got caught in that hoopla, unless they got rid of it like a penny stock, buy it today, sell it tomorrow, buy it today, sell it next week. If you got stuck with musical chairs and you own 100 Jeremy Lins, you're stuck. If you got stuck with all those Mark McGwire rookie cards back when he was breaking the records, on steroids, and Sammy Sosa that were up here and then they went down here. It's, I always say I never really made a living on buying those hot guys and doing it. I make my living and my joy on collecting and being more stable. So I've never really bought those. I've never been that guy that does that, but people do make a living and do that.
So
It's just not me.
the interesting thing is also, I guess people my age, when they go to garage sales, they're looking for that holy grail, like that box of 1966. So you mentioned the JSA. So now I'm going to pick your brain a little bit. All right. So
Sure.
there's a garage sale, and I found this on the table. Okay. It's a 1941 play ball signature of every team. It just shows facsimile autographs of every player. Okay. So I thought it was pretty cool. Now I turn to the back page, and on the back page in the upper corner is a real signature, Mel Allen. And at the very bottom, there's a JSA authentication, okay, with a number. I go to the JSA.
Can I see can you put the autograph a little bit closer for me? I want to see the autograph. Okay.
All right.
All right.
For $5, it was 1941. It's pretty cool. But I look at the JSA number, which it's a seal, and it's a number. The number's legit. You go to their website, and it shows Steiner Mel Allen, but then it says item type Rawlings OAL baseball. So I'm saying that's odd. Like, would someone take an authentication sticker from a baseball and stick it in this thing? And for $5, I don't know.
So the answer is it's probably been misdone by it's probably a clerical error. They probably made an error when they were putting it into the system, and they entered it as a wrong item.
Right.
Okay. As a wrong item. And what you could do is you could send a picture of that item to them and say this is showing up as a baseball when it's really a 1941, whatever the title of it is, and can you please correct that for me, because that's probably what happened.
Well, Mark, how about that?
And it's worth a lot more than $5. If the program itself would have been worth $5.
That's what
the person probably didn't even know that it was signed.
No, he didn't. He definitely didn't. I think I actually paid less than $5 because it was my wife bought a whole bunch of stuff, and I said, yeah, I'll take this, And then when I saw Mel on it, I was just taking it because I've never seen. We all got those facsimile baseballs as we were kids, but
So when you opened it up, my question is, did you say, how about that?
Yeah, nice. I see where you went there. Nicely played. It's like, all right. So walk us through what people are like. For me, all right. You mentioned different things to collect. All right. Obviously, I downsized. I'll pick up the occasional pack of baseball cards. I've looked on eBay, thinking of maybe going back and collecting, because you mentioned hockey is not that hot. And some of the prices for the vintage hockey aren't as expensive as vintage baseball, but baseball cards take up a big, space in your house, in your area.
But you're a Ranger fan, right?
Yes.
So you could go back and you could collect the cards of Ranger players that had an impact in your life and that you remember, and the different uniforms and the history, and it wouldn't cost you a lot. And if you only really love the card, Mark, and you don't need to have, you want to feel like someone enjoyed that card because that's what they were supposed to do, you can buy those cards very, very reasonably, and you don't have to worry. Now, if you want to buy 8s and 9s and graded cards, which that's not who you are, because I know who you are. That's not going to matter to you. You're going to want to own the card, and that's what you're going to enjoy. You don't need to spend a lot of money to do that. You can go back and get the stuff that made an impact in your life, and maybe some of the players that maybe weren't the biggest names, but guys like made an impact in you that played against the Rangers that you either hated or you appreciated. It could be a fighter. It could have been Tiger Williams. It could have been, a guy that you against the Islanders that you couldn't stand. It could have been Dennis Pottman's rookie card.
All of
probably get for $20. Right. But being a hockey guy, that would be a fun thing for you to do and to collect. And it does. I don't think it matters to you the condition of the card, really, as long as it's not bent in half and you can see it. Right.
Right. Yeah, you put it in a book and then you bring them out. Like my friend John Myers, who's actually in the chat room, he's like all over eBay. So that's another thing. What impact has eBay had on you directly or the hobby itself?
A lot of good and a lot of bad. I could be on here for 5 hours talking about it, but in a nutshell, everybody seems to become an expert. People on a computer can put things out for whatever they want, right? So you could ask whatever you want. So people will come into my store all the time and be like, I see this, people are selling this for $10,000. Meanwhile, it could be worth $20. But because someone goes on a computer, I could take that Met shirt that you're wearing, let's say it's a Mark Roseman game used sweatshirt, and put it on and say it's a one of a kind, and I can put it out for $5,000. Literally, I can have that up in 15 minutes. Your sweatshirt, and we can make a project of it. And someone be like, I can't believe it. There's a sweatshirt on. I have the same sweatshirt, and some guy's asking $5,000, like my mom's Corningware. Right? That's $14.95. That someone asked $4,000 for, because there could be some, I could say schmuck, right? Some schmuck that goes, look at this, it's worth it. And then the rest of the people fall in line like dominoes, and they go, I got a $4,000 thing. This guy's asking $4,000. It's got to be worth $4,000, right? So it's good. It's good and it's bad. It allows you to sell stuff. It allows you to find a marketplace that is in another part of the country that you wouldn't have. A lot of times I use it because it's a necessary evil. People don't know that my store exists. They may really only want to shop in a store, but they're looking for something that they can't find somewhere else. So it's their last resort. Or like now, you can't come out to stores. So you have cabin fever and you have time on your hands. So people are actually buying more because of those reasons, because they're indoors, they have money to spend. Maybe they don't have money to spend, but they have time to spend and look. So they're buying more stuff that makes them kind of happy. It's almost like a drug or a glass of wine. It's something that soothes them, right? So they're going out and buying something where you might not have bought it because you're too busy in your world. Now you have some downtime to like enjoy some of the stuff that you might not have time for.
It's funny.
So some opportunist is probably going to say, let me put out a line of coronavirus trading cards. The Dr. Fauci, the Dr. Birx. Okay, that's a novelty right now. 20 years from now, will that be worth anything? Or is that just something that's going to be here and gone and throw them out 3 months?
No, because you could go back to there's a lot of stuff that was done like that. I'm trying to,
astronaut cards,
9/11, killer sets. Well, astronaut cards and things like that. If there was stuff from the 60s and sets like that, depending on the rarity of them, those things can be worth money. But anything that was done like that in the last 10, 20 years is generally not really worth much. A friend of mine actually became sort of successful with a set that he put out back. What was it called? My friend's going to get mad at me. I have a box of it in my case. He put it out in like 2016 about all the politicians and all the stuff, and it was funny, and there were pieces of memorabilia from them put in, and it actually did very well because he was smart and he's been in the baseball card business for a long time, and he made it limited and put a lot of fun stuff in it. But generally, I don't think a set like that will hold much water, to be honest with you.
You mentioned that the varying sets, like when we were kids, the hit TV shows of the days, there was a Happy Days set, there was a Get Smart, there was a Gomer Pyle. You don't see, I mean, maybe they do. Do they make sets of current, more, teenage type TV shows?
Not really. In the 80s, they probably did, like in the 80s and whatever. In the 90s, they still did it. They probably did Alf. They did, some music bands in the 80s. They did Duran Duran set. They did, stuff like that. Get Smart goes back to the 60s. Get Smart was actually a black and white card that was actually a elongated card, and you could actually break it into pieces if you didn't keep it together. They were in sections if you so chose. Those were actually great cards. Those are hard to find in good shape, and I like that set actually that you brought that up. But,
it's a cool
there were a lot of movies, there were a lot of TV sets. What they make today is they go back and they make historic sets, like they'll make the garbage pail kids that was successful in the early 80s. They'll make the wacky packages, which were tremendous in the early 70s, late 60s, which would be a farce about products like, A-Jerks instead of Ajax and things like that. There's a huge market for wacky packages.
Really?
Do you remember those?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting.
So they make those, and Star Wars. They make Star Wars today because Star Wars is so popular. So they'll make movies. They'll make stuff of Marvel and things like that. They will make today. Not as many of the shows though.
So you also, I think you and I touched on this, that when someone passes before their time, like a Kobe Bryant, all of a sudden there's a clamor for Kobe Bryant. Stuff. Have you seen a big uptake in the Kobe Bryant market?
Yeah. So I've never seen anything like the Kobe thing. And I've been doing this for 30 years. I never have seen such an emotional reaction to the Kobe death, and people wanting a piece of him or something of his. nothing has. And because he died so tragically and so young, and you could equate it to, like, I guess, Munson, but back then there weren't baseball card stores in 1979 like that, or Clemente's death in 73, I believe.
72.
Yeah, 72.
December
December 31st.
It was December of 72, right?
Yeah.
Right. Clemente is, beloved. These guys are immortalized. Kobe, sold well and was collected. There was some people that he was not collected like Michael Jordan, but now they're because of the media and because of what the connection with his daughter and the obviously the tragic death. Yes, I never saw anything like it. People wanted to buy his stuff more than anything else, and his prices did shoot up tremendously. And now they've leveled off to a more normal playing field, but they're still a lot more expensive than what they were, on January 25th. I think he died on the 26th.
All right, before we let you go, pull one or two items from your store that you think are the cool. Show us two of what you think are the coolest items in your store.
Well, we didn't really have time, but I actually wanted to talk about a bunch of my loves. We could do another show.
For sure.
So I'm a button and a pin and button collector, and a ticket collector from events that were, historical or that were important. And I was going to show you because I know you're a Met fan and whatever, and you brought up Clemente. I have the Chase in 1970. Was it 71? I think 71. They had a Roberto Clemente Day at Chase Stadium.
WADO, Roberto Clemente Day. I have that pin. It's a white pin.
Do you have it?
Somewhere I might still have it, or maybe I gave it to you when I sold everything.
No, you didn't give it to me because I never had it. I got it recently.
WADO, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And it's a rare pin. That pin is worth, depending on the condition, is worth $300-400.
All right, I'm going to tell you a crazy story about a pin, okay? This goes back to, I'd say 1978, 79. I started collecting political buttons, right? And just weird buttons like Groucho Marx and things. And at Bleecker Bob's Records, they had this showcase, a rounded wood, beautiful showcase. And there's this pin in the very bottom. And it was Jackie Robinson tells his story in the Brooklyn Eagle. And I bought it for $5 at that time. It seems like
the pin. Jackie Robinson plays it. So the pin was the Newark. Yes. So that's a valuable pin.
So wait. And when we moved to Comac, when we moved from Queens to Comac, all that stuff went up in my attic, right? And when we moved, I unpacked this one box, and it had all my political pins in it. And I'm looking at this pin, and I go, maybe it's worth something. And I Google it, and I see this auction where this thing went for like $2,500 on consignment. So I called the guy, and he goes, well, on the very bottom, there's a small little, letter of his name. It's either J-A-C-K or an N. Whenever I go, it goes N. He goes, well, that's the least valuable of all of them because what it was, people would be giving, the newspaper would give them out. And each letter would be a redemption for either a free, I don't know if we lost Scott. Oh, there is.
I'm back.
So it would be redemption. Like, so if you got a J, you get a year's free paper. If it was an A, you would get, to the ballpark for free or whatever. The N was like a week's free subscription to the paper. So it was fairly common because no one handed in the pin. They'd rather have the pin than a 1 week subscription. So
do you have the pin still?
No. So just for the hell of it, we put it on eBay. Whatever, with a starting bid of $500, right?
By the way, he's wrong because the pin is still rare, no matter what.
All right. So for like the first 4 days of the auction, nothing. And the auction was ending on Mother's Day, and we had people over, and still no bids. From 8 o'clock to 9:30 for when the bid stopped, every second. It ended up selling for $1,600. This one pin. This was, I guess, 5-6 years ago when we sold it. But you wouldn't think that pins aren't that valuable, but this one was pretty cool.
The problem with pins is that there's a lot of remakes on pins, and they're actually held down in value because people don't know, especially on the internet, whether they're buying real or fake. And a lot of those pins are hard to get graded because the size prohibits them. And the grading company like PSA don't grade a lot of certain pins because of the sizes they're not able to get them in a certain size case. So you're out there and there's a lot of remakes. So people don't know what to trust. and that really does bring down the value of the real stuff. Your pin, which is nice to get $1,600. If you can probably market it even more correctly, and you had someone like me behind you, you probably could have even got more money for it. But $1,600 means it's probably worth $2,500 to $3,500 because people are looking to get.
You know, my favorite political button. I was looking at my desk to see if I could find it. In 1969, the New York mayoral race, Norman Mailer and Jimmy Breslin ran. Norman Mailer, the novelist, ran for mayor, and Jimmy Breslin, the columnist, ran for city council president. And somewhere I've got a Mailer Breslin, mayor, city council president button. Vote the rascals out or something, it said.
All right, so Scott, before we go, show us two of.
So I'm going to show you. I'll show you that button. Hold on, I have.
Now I'm going to be searching my house all day.
So you're a Met fan, so I'm going to just bring out a couple of cool things. We could do another show on this, and I could be doing shows till the cows come home.
It's fine.
I can entertain everybody for 24 hours a day.
It seems like we're going to have some time, Scott.
Right. So, and I should do my own shows. We'll be conjunction, but I should do it. But so he has the first year at Shea Stadium, right? 64, they had the All-Star game, right? So this is how I think grading is really just subpar, because this is like in beautiful condition, front and back. And George Weiss, was the president of the Mets back then, George Weiss?
Yes.
I met, wasn't he with the Yankees earlier on?
He was the Yankees general manager, and then when he and Casey Stengel were eased out because they were, quote, too old. So he became the president of the Mets, and he hired Casey Stengel as the manager.
So this is a 64, but this is the press pass for on the field for the All-Star game, which was Tuesday, July 7th, which was my father's birthday, 1964. And actually, my father actually went to this game. I didn't get this for my father, but I have the original ticket from the All-Star game, which was not, the tickets are obviously different. This is a press pass that allowed you to get on the field from the media, which, Mark, I know you're part of the media, so you know what I'm talking about. But this is only graded a 4, which is a VG to EX. And if you look at this, you can't get a nicer condition one. I don't know if you got a glare there, but can you see it?
Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah,
so
cool.
This is
how much
first All-Star game.
So how much is something like that worth right now?
You don't see too many of them on the marketplace. I would probably value something like this at, $400 to $500. Something like that. Somebody could argue with me, but my answer to them is go find 3 more of them.
I thought you were going to say something. I got scared there for a second, Scott.
But by the way, I just sold this card. I just sold this card. This is only for Mark. I'm showing it. I think this is Jockman's rookie card.
Oh, no,
rated an 8.
To the left a little bit.
Okay. See it?
Yeah, now we do. Nice. See that's a
nice haircut.
That's just for you.
How much is that?
Throwing you a couple of balls.
That's his rookie?
This is his O-Pee-Chee rookie, graded an 8 by Beckett, which really isn't, to me, the best to grade vintage. I probably bought it this way, and I would have probably submitted it to PSA for more vintage, but it's graded an 8. It's a really nice card. It's about a $300 card in this shape.
Wow. So in that condition. So what you were saying for me, if I want to go back, if I picked that up in like a 5 grade, what would that?
If you pick that up in a 5, and that's O-Pee-Chee, that's the Canadian version. Right. So if you pick that up in a 5, you probably get that card for $75, $80. I would guess. I'd have to go on and look. I'm shooting from the cuff, but I'm going to show you. Let me show you my pins. Let's see. I'll show you one of my favorite pins. You were talking about Jackie Robinson before, so I'll show you a Jackie Robinson. This is his rookie pin.
To the left again, Scott.
Yeah. Hold on.
No, your left. Yeah.
Right here. Okay. So can you see it?
A little bit.
This is a 19. So this is graded because it's small enough. Right here.
Yeah, got it.
There. You got it?
Yep.
So this is actually in beautiful shape, and if you see the back, a lot of times with pins, they have those rainbows, whatever. I'm not good at what you see it.
Yeah.
There's the camera. Okay.
Got it.
There you go. So this is a 1947 Brooklyn Dodgers Jackie. It says congratulations because obviously congratulations on breaking the color barrier and becoming the first to play. So there's another one where it says we're rooting for Jackie. I don't know if you ever saw that pin. I want to show you. I'm going to show you a couple interesting pins, and then I'll let everyone go. I don't want to hold anybody hostage here. Let's see.
So my friend Leaf Barron, who was actually in the chat room, he was cleaning out, I believe, his father's apartment, and actually found and gave it to me, the 1962 Mets pocket schedule in perfect condition. Is that
That's
something
great.
is that something that's worth something?
100%.
Well,
Yes,
he's watching,
anything,
so don't value it too high because he'll want it back.
yeah, so it's I would say it's about $10,000. No, what is that worth? Pocket schedules aren't worth tremendous. Listen, he gave you
It
a
was
nice
his grandfather. It was his grandfather's.
You could take him out for dinner and you'd be all right, and it'd be a fair trade as long as you're not going to like Blackstone or something.
I took him to the NFL All-Star game, so it's okay.
So I reached into my desk.
Does that look familiar?
Yeah, It's I remember the radio station, which is bizarre. I mean, how crazy is that, right?
This one's is yours in this kind of shape. This one's really
if I can find it. I hope I can find it. It's like,
now here's the key.
Yeah. To the left. Is that the ticket stub from the night?
That's the ticket from the game.
Wow. No, that I don't have.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Are you getting an angle? So that's kind of cool. It's really cool if you have an event where you can put the ticket in the program, the ticket in the pin, whatever they gave out. So I'm going to show you my holy grail. I have a couple of them. I have
Ira Breck, a person I went to high school with, actually wants to know how much a 1962 Met yearbook is worth if it's in good condition. I'm assuming.
Okay, so that's the yearbook with the baby on the cover, and it really, really fully depends on the condition of the yearbook. But that is the holy grail of the Met yearbooks, obviously, and that is the hardest one to find and to find in good condition. So the answer to your question is, if it's not in great shape, it could be worth $50. If it's in good shape, it could be worth upwards of close to $500.
Oh,
and
nice.
the parameter is $75 to $500, and generally they're in the $300 range if they're in decent shape.
Now, here's the other question, and you and I discussed this because in some of my collection there were some things that was very cool. But you had mentioned to me that certain collectibles start to age out. So let's take, for example, a Mickey Mantle. Obviously, Mickey Mantle is a legend, but in the same respect, like a Wall Street trader who's got big money, well, maybe not so much these days, but someone who's got expendable cash in his 30s is not going to be spending money on a Mickey Mantle. Conversely, someone who was a huge Mickey Mantle fan, who is now probably 75 to 80 and retired in Florida and is getting a Social Security check, might not be spending $5 to $8 grand on an autographed Mickey Mantle jersey that he might only enjoy for 15 years. So when you mentioned it's like playing penny stocks. When does
such a perfect question. Perfect question. So, and I've seen that, and you never thought you'd see it with Mickey Mantle, but you do see it with a lot of the older players. Going back to remember when I opened my store was 92, and so like the guy it's happening more with DiMaggio than it is with Mantle, but it's starting to happen a little bit with Mantle. The names of Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth will always be Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, and Joe DiMaggio. There'll always be those names. The names like the Carl Hubbles and the Bill Terrys were legendary, and people don't remember Bill Terry, but the guy hit, in 1930 he hit 401. He's the last guy in the National League to hit 400. Nobody really remembers or cares. Ted Williams is the last guy in the American League, which is a bigger name. But if I asked most people that weren't Mark, you or AJ, who's the last guy to hit 400 in the National League, they wouldn't they wouldn't have the answer to that question unless they Googled it, right? Probably.
Right.
So Bill Terry, who died in probably the early 90s, and Carl Hubble, who's famous for striking out 6 guys in a row in that All-Star game, including Gehrig and Ruth and murders, all that. There's no connection.
Stan Musial's another one. John Myers just put in.
There's no connection, right? So you need, in memorabilia land, you need to have that connection that makes you feel something to make you really spend that money a lot of times. Now, if your name is Babe Ruth and your name is Jackie Robinson, you may have such an historical, impact that you don't need to have been seen because you can watch the movies, you watch the clips, you've been told about him. They're so legendary. I'll even put Clemente in that, and for the Yankee fan, like Thurman Munson may lose a little luster to the guy I'm 53 right now, right? So that was my childhood, 10 years old, 12 years old, and Thurman Munson dies in 1979. I was 12 years old, right? Everyone remembers where they were when Thurman Munson died, if you're a Yankee fan. I was fishing in my backyard for snappers in August, you know? I remember exactly where I was the most. So to go back, I'm seeing it a little bit with Mantle now, because the guy that be in his 60s now that really saw Mantle in his prime. I'm not talking about Mantle on one leg in 1967, 68, right? Because Mantle played basically on one leg at the end, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Did you see him play?
Yeah, 1960.
Yes,
I remember this.
I did. So I saw Mantle in his prime.
Arnie saw him as a rookie.
Okay, so
Arnie was
what
54
was your
when Mantle was a rookie.
Not quite.
What was your earliest memory of Mickey Mantle?
Mine or AJ's?
No, AJ's, because your memory is going to be him playing first base.
My memory of Mickey Mantle was the '61 season and the home run battle with Maris. See which one, if one, would break Ruth. That's the big thing. And I think I remember one game vaguely. For some reason, he was hurt as usual. It was like 63, something like that. And he came back and hit some sort of pinch hit home run. Those are my memories of Mantle. He was just, he was it. He was super. People loved him more than Maris. Maris wasn't as likable. And you wanted him to break the record and not Maris.
Right. Right. So there's a few things that go into, like, in the value. I'm thinking my brain is going 100 miles an hour always. Is that everybody probably that, like, of your age, thought of Mantle as your favorite player, and like nobody could love him like you did, but you didn't realize that everybody else loved him like you did. It's like a movie that I watched as a kid. When I was 6 years old, I watched the movie. I thought it was like that movie was made for me, and nobody else. So like you think, but then you find out that everybody else loves it just like you do. So everyone loved Mickey Mantle. He's like the god of the people from that era. So the movie 61 comes out, what Billy Crystal does, right? So that now brings back people that can watch that or go to Miracle, right? The movie Miracle. So, I was 13 years old when the Miracle happened, right? USA beats Russia, Davey versus Goliath. You can remember that countdown that that Al Michaels makes. Do you believe in miracles? But then people watch the movie. It's put out by Disney. So now you have another breath of life. So the movie Jackie Robinson comes out, right? So people watch that. So people say, oh, Jackie Robinson, he was this historic figure, and now they can watch the movie. So that will kind of bring back a little bit of a passion collecting. Or if your father instilled in you Mickey Mantle and you had such a connection with your father, you wanted to eat what your father liked. My father liked liver, and I wanted to eat liver. I couldn't stand liver. I wanted to be like my father. So I wanted to love liver. The closest I got was finally enjoying chopped liver. But that will also bring the value of the collecting and will carry on. But your name has to be Mickey Mantle. It's more Mickey Mantle than DiMaggio. I've seen DiMaggio fall off a lot because of the guy that saw DiMaggio is gone now, or he's 90 years old. He's what you're saying, he's not collecting.
Interesting.
He's not collecting anything.
All right, show us one more cool item before we let you go. And we really appreciate this, and we definitely going to do it more. This is a lot of fun.
We're running. We just discussed tickets, and we discussed Mantle, big moments, whatever. So Mickey Mantle, and I heard you bring up Mother's Day when you sold that ticket. So I have right. So that ticket sold on Mother's Day, the pin of Clemente. So on Mother's Day in 1967. Mickey Mantle hit his 500th home run, okay? They handed out medallions for Mother's Day at Yankee Stadium. I don't know if you remember that or know that, but that's true. So I have the actual original medallion that they handed out at Mother's Day. But more importantly, I have the actual ticket from the game. On top of that, I have it signed by Mickey Mantle.
Whoa.
And then on top of that, which I challenge people to find, I have it signed Mickey Mantle, 500 home runs. And then I got it graded, the autograph graded at 9. And I'll show it to you. I'll show you the medallion, and I'll show you the ticket. So first I'll show you the medallion. And this is not for sale. But I think it's really cool. And this is the medallion. Let's see if you can see it.
To your right. Yeah.
And down a little bit.
You got it?
Okay, so
it say Mother's Day on it? Can you see what it says?
I just make out
Yankees on the top. No, on the top.
Yes, I see it. Yes.
Yeah. And what's on the back of it?
So it says Mother's Day, 1967. It's fine. But Mother's Day.
Okay.
So this was handed out to only the mothers, or people that dress like mothers, to get it. It's like a bobblehead now, right? So and here's the ticket. So Can you,
The other way. There you go.
I'm gonna have to perfect my skill.
Rain check.
You got it?
Yeah.
Enter gate
So
two.
it's and
$3.50 was how much it
and
cost.
he signed it 500 home runs, and I got it graded by PSA, and it grades the autograph grades a 9. The ticket itself doesn't. The person that got it on the back wrote all kinds of, fun stuff on it, which I like
Right.
because it kind of, we want to talk about value wise, it probably brings the value down, but there's not too many of these out there, so beggars can't be choosers. So this is really a cool item because he wrote 500 home runs on it, which the inscription is where this value is. But putting these things together makes it a powerful connection because now you have the person that was there, the medallion that was given out. You could put yourself there, other than giving you the hot dog the guy ate. I actually bought this from somebody. I got it certified. I made them write me a letter of how they got it. They wrote me a whole letter. I actually have the letter of how they were eating a hot dog. They almost missed the 500 home run because they went to the hot dog stand to go get the hot dog. They almost missed the home run. They ran back. So to me, that kind of stuff is just as valuable as the item itself because it puts that person there. It gives you the story and it makes you feel something. And really and truly, at the end of the day, the reason we buy and collect this kind of stuff is because it's a memory. It's something that we remember fondly, whether it's going to a game, whether a player threw you a baseball, whether you got a foul ball at a game, you went with your friend, you remember it, somebody passed away, your father, that connection is invaluable. And that's where it really all starts and it ends there. And that's where collecting that's why people really originally collected this stuff. And that is a prized possession of mine.
That is awesome. And that's, I'm sure, what you miss the most about the store. People coming in and telling you and having that connection and bringing you. And then, before that, you probably didn't know much about that Mother's Day game or even that medallion. And then, so how
Correct.
do you research that? That's how they gave that out that particular day. I mean, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. And those are researching. The person told me that, the story that they tell you. So, like I bought your collection. Generally, when I buy someone's collection, especially if they're older, and then we'll kind of finish it up because again I could talk forever. Is I usually make people write me stories about how they obtain their collections, what their passion was. If someone sells me someone's collection, either they passed away or they're older, I make them write me whatever information, and I put it with the collection because the truth be told, I have so many collections that I'll never probably sell or just go through that I want to have a story and that connection to that person's collecting habits or who they were because it kind of connects them to the collection, and I make a lot of people do that. So it's not just money for me.
So in closing, what I should do is actually I should send you my blood work and you could put it with the Hostess, Twinkie cards. Because that sure is what made me pre-diabetic, I'm sure. I had to eat a lot of Twinkies to get all those Hostess cards that have.
Oh, the back panels, the back panels. Those are really more in this, but those are more in the 70s, right? Not really in the 60s, right?
Yeah, 70s.
Those are great.
Sure. Yeah.
Those are great.
Right,
yeah.
Listen, this is the first time we've tried this, and we ironed out a lot of the kinks. We got the chat room going, and it's great. And we definitely want to do it again. So, we'll figure out.
But by the way, so people can, if people are watching you, they can like also Cardboard Memories. If they have any questions for me. Please send me any questions. If you need me to look at something, we could do another day where people could show me their autographs. I could do a free, authentication kind of a thing. If people decide they want letters, I also do letters of authenticity. I help with appraisals for insurance. I do all that kind of stuff. So if I can help people, especially since they're cleaning out, I also buy collections. If someone needs to sell something, I buy everything.
So AJ, I'm surprised you asked me a specific question, which I thought was a brilliant question to ask Scott, and you never even brought it up. So do you want me to ask it, or you?
Which question was this?
All right. So Scott, AJ brought this up to me and said, so if there is no 2020 baseball season, all right, does this year's cards become less or more valuable 10 years down the road?
Time will tell.
It's a good way to end.
I don't know. Time will tell. I'm not a soothsayer, so I don't know. We're gonna have to let the public see. It's gonna be about how much of it was produced, how much people decide to hoard it because they think of that as the nature of the reason why they're collecting. And I'll leave with this: I guarantee you that a lot of people that are watching this show right now collected baseball cards for the wrong reasons, because everybody became a baseball card collector in the late 80s when the craze, whatever. And when people call me today, they have these cases of baseball cards from like 1987 and 88. We call it junk wax, because they produce so much of it that people thought they were going to send their kids to college on these boxes of cards that aren't worth the space they take up in people's garage now, because everybody decided to hoard it and collect it, not from the passion, but because it was the thing to do at that time. So the answer is, it depends how much is produced and how many people collect it for the wrong reasons.
Awesome. Lots of people in the chat room definitely want more. They want us to do a one on just vintage cards the next show. So we'll talk about it. We'll definitely do. Listen, like I said, I think we're still going to have plenty of time on our hands, and this was great, and we really enjoyed it. So Scott, just
Absolutely,
where people can go to the website. Give the website out.
So it's cardboardmemories.com. A lot of my stuff is not on it. It's a work in progress. You can go to Cardboard Memories, like us, Cardboard Memories on Facebook. We do have an eBay page, Cardboard Memories 2011. You can send us an email to sales@cardboardmemories.com. We check our email all the time, and you can ask me any questions. I'm located in Comac on Jericho Turnpike, where Anthony's Cold Pizza is. It's called Pepper Tree Commons, and I'll help anybody any way I can. I love what I do, and I love sharing my passion with others.
Awesome, Scotty. Thanks so much, and we will definitely do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Have fun.
Scott Stimell of Cardboard Memories, AJ Carter, my co-host. And like I said, we're actually going to, when we go in studio Sunday for the radio show, we're going to try this as well and continue going forward. We have some guests lined up for next week, so we'll keep this going. See everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong, and just hang in there, everybody.